restrictions. But no, we found there's a lot of lawyers not willing to break new grounds, not willing to represent Satanists. So, and some of these lawsuits can be prohibitively expensive. The lawsuits in Missouri run us in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and so far there's not much to show for it. But I do think we're on the front line of fighting against these draconian restrictions.
Mm-hmm. And Reed Shabbat, thank you for the second super chat. He says that every atheist should join Lucien in the fight against the growing theocratic encroachment of tyranny we're living in, the most active organization pushing against the embodiment of celestial tyranny. Quite a statement.
Yeah, I mean, Satanism isn't for everybody, and it's not for every atheist either. If Satanism doesn't resonate with you, maybe you're just an ally of the kinds of fights we fight. But one thing I would ask of any atheist is to stop making this a fight against religion. Change your terminology, make it a fight against superstition, and start embracing the idea that you have deeply held beliefs, you have items of religious opinion, and as such, you should not be a second-class citizen with diminished civic capacities just because you don't hold to supernatural beliefs. You should have the same privileges and exemptions as anybody with a religious point of view when it comes to legalistic claims of conscience.
Okay, and there's quite a few of these. 0, 132, 132. Hail Sagan, read again. Hail Black Sabbath and Metal, Cage Incrustation, Hail Santana. Janice Hall says, all new information for me. Great perspective. Keep up the great work, Lucien. Chief Nerd, if you have not seen the movie, it is well worth the time. Siegfriedo Sarabia says, if Satanic Temple is not supernatural, isn't atheism?
Isn't atheism a religion is probably what it means to say. But I just, no, atheism's not a religion. Atheism just describes what you're not. As atheists ourselves, we're also Satanists. We're not saying that atheism is a religion. And I get tired of seeing these quips over and over again that atheism is a religion, like bald is a hairstyle and things like that. Yes, I get it. But atheism is nothing more than saying you don't believe in some kind of ethereal deity. With Satanism, we define what our ethics are, and we have that kind of cultural identity that stands apart from the atheism itself. We're a non-theistic religion.
Well said. Prophet of Cthulhu, how long do you think it will be until the U.S. views the character of Satan not as an enemy, but as a rebel liberator like Prometheus?
When we come out victorious in this current culture war, and even before, as more and more people realize just how depraved and corrupt this current theocratic movement is in the name of spreading Christianity all over the place, the more it becomes impossible to put these kinds of pluralistic values into a Judeo-Christian context because of this movement. People will more and more see the value in what the Satanic Temple is doing, and because of that, more and more they'll see the symbolic value of Satan the same way we do.
And Magdalena, you were the first person to try to convince me to get Lucien on. So I owe you. We are in a great debt of gratitude to you for bringing that idea up. And I think she's happy because she says, this is amazing. Thank you. Love and hugs. So I hope it was everything that you wanted.
Hugs to Magdalena. She's been following me on Facebook and Twitter for some time. She's in Poland and she's great. Love you, Magdalena.
Perfect. Well, she is responsible for tonight's stream, so thank you very much, Magdalena. Wriggles World says hate speech is definitely too vague of a term to be used effectively in legislation. Anything you wanted to tag in on that? That's more of a comment.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I always like to leave myself open to new ideas on how to approach things better. So when people say I'm an absolutist on anything, that's just inaccurate. And I think, as I said, speaking earlier, like if you can come up with a way to lessen the danger and the kind of irresponsible speech put forward by an asshole like Alex Jones or anything like that, in a way that can be applied in principle, meaning that it can be equally applied uh, uh, broadly and uniformly in a way that it doesn't allow for uh, uh, this kind of subjective analysis on a case by case basis that allows certain people to be censored based upon the preferences of whoever is doing the censoring. Then those things can be put into consideration. But until then, you're playing a very dangerous game. And I think we've made a lot of progress. People like to talk about how many steps backwards we've taken, but in my own lifetime alone, we've seen a lot. We've seen violence dramatically decline in the United States. There's been kind of an uptick lately, but it doesn't mean that a data point is necessarily indicative of a trend. And I kind of feel like the social environment is very similar to the ecological environment, where if you unbalance one element, you might start suffering ramifications in ways you didn't intend elsewhere. And that's not to say we shouldn't touch anything or that there's not a whole lot of work to be done, but we should also recognize what we've done right and be very circumspect when we're talking about initiating new programs like broadening our definition of what hate speech is. Because, like I said, I really see the Satanic Temple as easily being an unintended consequence of that, with how many people like to kind of put words in our mouths and try to define us on their own terms.
Mm-hmm. And that was a very good analogy, I think, too, with the environment. I like that. Pole Center says, workers of all countries unite. Casa Viva la Revolution. Pole Center again. Lucifer is the champion of the poor and the enemy of the rich. Postpartum depression. Man, these names are, you guys are creative. Let me tell you, you guys are very creative. Hail Satan, comfiest of all cloths. Sigfrido again. Flat earthers exist. Hail Satan.
What's all this flat Earth shit? That's the fault of you guys.
Oh yeah, you
earlier there's all this flat Earth shit, and I was wondering what. I wasn't really concerned because you seem to have the endorsement of people who like
oh yeah, they
for a
love
while
it.
to be on the show. But
we are the bane. Think of this as the thorn. We are the thorn in flat Earth's side. Like we do every week. We have a thing called Flaturday Nights where we usually do two-hour debates on Saturday nights, and we bring in astrophysicists, people who measure these using these sensitive instruments in the seas for tsunamis, so they know what they're talking about, and they can lay out a case for anyone to be able to see that if you are following the flat Earth, you are absolutely just an idiot, or you are willfully turning a blind eye to truth. And there's we do that for a very good reason. It's funny, yes, but there's a bigger sort of thing behind it, is because I think flat Earth culminates a group of people who are jaded. They think that the systems lied to them. They don't believe in empirical evidence or facts. They are willing to wave their hand, dismiss it, and think that that's okay, and that's going to be the way the world works, and it's growing. Like the movement's growing. It's not like this is a.
I know it's so depressing to me, but on the other side, yeah, I don't object to you confronting that, because I have to admit, when I was much younger, I learned so much about evolutionary biology just by learning the refutations to creationist arguments. And it wasn't so much that I was embraced creationist arguments. It was just that that manner of presentation, reading the refutations, was generally more fun than just flat biology textbooks.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I seriously learned more about biology
time.
in dealing with creationism in the last 6 years than I actually did in college when I took biology. So I learned a lot more of the nuances of the arguments, but by far, absolutely.
There's a big difference there, though, guys. But like I see what the comparison that you're making. There's a huge difference, though, in something that there are a lot of questions in. Like, you cannot question the shape of the earth. This is something that it is black and white. It is something that is absolutely provable. So where the riddle is for me is, why are these individuals choosing to ignore? Because literally, we've had people
thought for a while. I've had this theory for a while that this is a case of somebody started out fucking with people, like somebody revived flat Earth as a way of trying to illustrate the nature of idiotic claims, and then it took off. I just can't.
It's exactly what it was.
I just can't believe that somebody came at this in earnest and was just the whole flat Earth thing was entirely like this quaint antiquity of idiotic thinking, and it's just depressing. It's just depressing that there can even be a population who's that scientific. Earth is flat.
Edgewise, he used, oddly enough, Google Earth, which is a globe, to look at the continent of Africa, and there's a ridge on the left-hand side that comes from the top and sort of swoops around. He has convinced himself that is a fossilized dragon, and that back in the day, God sent this dragon down because the continents were stacked on top of each other like a burger, and it was the dragon's job to place the continents back where they are. And now that sounds ridiculous, and if it was, I think you would have somebody do a video and leave it. He spends hours doing video after video after video, detailing every single mark in that ridge, showing you that this is a dragon. Like, this is
and we
not
have people that think that mountains are titans that laid down and just they died and became mountain ranges. And people think that Wyoming, the Devil's Tower in Wyoming is actually a tree stump from when giants used to walk the earth and do forestry, I guess.
It's not a hobby.
It's really stuff they believe.
Yeah. Well, if your conclusion is your starting point, you tend to find the evidence somewhere. You look hard enough.
But they won't listen to you try to explain that to them. It's wild. It's wild.
Well,
you should join us one Saturday night. I think you'd have fun.
Yeah, really. Yeah, you would really have fun doing a flat earth thing if you didn't lose your mind. But it's very draining, to say the least, and taxing to deal with some of these people.
We just got a couple more here, and then we'll close this out. Reed says, pin his philosophy. Done. Uncle Ned, he said the Satanic Temple is basically science in a religion. That being said, hell, Satan. Prohl Center, America is incredibly violent. The U.S. military has killed millions around the globe in resource grabs and war of aggression. 2BN323 says, does the Satanic Temple do weddings or funerals? That's a good question.
Yeah, right now we have very few people we have actually officially ordained, but we're working hard now on putting together our ordination coursework to make sure that our ordained really understand exactly who we are and where we're coming from, that they can represent us properly. And then once we roll that out, you'll see, I think, ordained satanic ministers all over the place.
Excellent. It's that time of the evening, ladies and gentlemen, where we get the super chat from our resident critic, Christian, Artisan Tony. I cannot wait to see what Artisan Tony has in store for us on this particular stream. Good show, guys. Wow.
Wow. Thank you,
Well,
Tony. That's high praise indeed.